This is Hugh Ballou, the transformational leadership strategist, integrating strategy and performance. It's the missing step. I've worked with leaders for 30 plus years. Most of that time, leaders in charities. A lot of that time, leaders in small business. What I find that's consistent is that leaders are bound by things they don't even know about. So today, this video is looking at self. I've studied this particular work of psychiatrist Murry Bowen, MD. It's a leadership principle. It's not psychiatry. It is 8 concepts of leadership. I'm going to give you the high-level view. I've studied it 8 years. It's been the most compelling, most useful, most eye-opening, most transformational leadership material that I've ever experienced. I want to awaken you to the possibilities. There's a checklist with the 8 concepts and then some notes about some of the other terms I'm going to use. And there's a link to the Bowen Center in Georgetown University in Maryland. And there's a reference for some of Roberta Gilbert's books. And she has taken Bowen's essays and put them into systems in her books. It's very useful. It will help you unlock your potential in the organization you lead. It's useful in your family, your church, your social club, any other organizations where you function in a group. Bowen Systems is about us and how we function in a group setting. So let me run down the 8 concepts. This will open up your eyes to some of the things that have been going on that have given you some challenges. Triangles, boom, 1, 2, 3. Triangles are the basic building block of human relationships. You, me, another person. There's triangle. Now, there's anxiety that happens. Somebody gets anxious. It spreads around the triangle. Sometimes triangles, there's a misunderstanding, and someone has a power position because they don't agree with the other person in the triangle. So they bring in that third person and say, I don't like that other person because, and here's what I want to do. Well, we've isolated that person. I have created a power position in the triangle, and this other person I'm talking to, the second person, feels isolated. So we have created a negative triangle. Basically, triangles are neutral. They're neither bad nor good. They can be good. If we have people separated, we can push the other way and connect the triangle and have an awareness that's pretty profound. Now, when emotion gets into the triangle, it gets out of sorts, especially when somebody is acting out of integrity and trying to force an issue and not dealing directly with that third person. Our job as leaders is to observe those triangles and to make sure that people are connected. And there are triangles that overlap when you have more people in an organization. And when we get some anxiety, it spreads throughout all of those triangles. So your job as a leader is to observe the triangles and then connect them where it's appropriate. Triangles, that's concept number 1. Number 2 is the basic tenet of Bowen Systems. It's called differentiation of self. When I do planning with organizations, we typically start with our core values. What are the values that have pulled us together, that hold us together? What are the values that we don't break? And I find very few organizations can articulate them very clearly. I don't find many individuals who've even thought about their core values. Core values of ourselves and core values of our organization. Have we matched them, or is there conflict in those values? Once we write those values, theoretically we use them to write our goals and our plans. Rarely is that faithfully executed. Once we've done that, even if we do it really well, core values are static. Integrity, honesty, fairness, things like that, and they get put away. That doesn't do much good. There's still core values. When we ask groups, what are your core values? We sometimes have some disagreement, and we have lots of confusion when people are trying to remember what those values are that they said so long ago. Therefore, we're not using them day to day as we make decisions for an organization. Differentiation of self is defining our guiding principles. What are the principles that we abide by? How do we implement integrity? How do we implement authenticity? How do we remain calm? When we have a triangle, do we go away from the conflict, or do we move toward the conflict, staying calm, being open and present, and just dealing with the facts? Those are some principles for personal conduct. Principles for organizations are a little more in detail, but it's the anchor of how we make decisions as a group. As an individual, we make decisions based on our principles, not because we want somebody to like us. So we cave in, we sell out, we do what we think other people want us to do. So we've betrayed our own values. Principles help guide our decision making. And when somebody pushes a button and there's a chance for us to go over that line of integrity, making a decision that we should not make, the guiding principle is our foundation for decision making. Bowen calls this basic self. Pseudo-self is a phony way of making a decision that's pleasing others, that has a downward spiral. We want people to like us. Ultimately, they won't like us and they won't respect us. So differentiation of self is a lot more complex than that. I've put some links in the handout for you to go and read more about it. I would certainly recommend buying one of Roberta Gilbert's books. We have learned from our nuclear family, the family that we grew up in. There's basic behaviors. There's basic standards. We behave a certain way. We've learned from our parents, and we've had this culture growing up that has shaped who we are. That's the basic fundamental of how we show up. It's not limiting how we behave, however. Understanding that and looking at our family of origin, looking at our nuclear family helps us understand ourselves. That liberates us to making decisions based on who we are. This sometimes binds leaders. These triangles, we're afraid of not pleasing people. We haven't written guiding principles, and now we have these things that we've inherited from our family, our nuclear family, and we're not aware of what these are. So we make decisions that cause consequences that aren't the results we want. That's not helpful. Learning about these things helps us reveal the decisions that we make that are causing problems that come back to bite us sometimes. Number 4, family projection process. We've all grown up in families that have their own fears, their own hopes, their own standards. So family, there's a link in there. You can study more about family projection process. But I want to go to the next one, number 5, multi-generational transmission process. We have inherited traits from generations above us. In the Bowen Systems, there's a way to diagram families. Here's the man, a square. Here's the woman, a zero, a square and a circle. And then you draw a line. Here's the children. But you go up. Here's the parents. Here's the parents. Here's the parents, the grandparents, the great-grandparents. We start listening to stories. And there are aha moments. We look at the triangles. We look at the relationships. We start looking at what people did, how they function together. And amazingly, we learn things about ourselves. And this is a good thing. It's not good or bad. We can't correct the history, and we shouldn't correct the history. They were doing the best they could. We learn about ourselves. Multi-generational transmission. We are a product of those generations. Learning about ourselves lets us know, informs us, equips us to know ourselves. Therefore, we as leaders make better decisions because we know ourselves. This is a very liberating process. We don't make decisions and say, that's what I was taught and that's what I do. Well, you may have been taught something and it was really good. Now it's time for you to step up and then make decisions based on your own principles in view of what we've inherited. It takes some study and some thinking. Once we get there, it's liberating, amazingly liberating, and we start discovering how we have impacted the culture. Bowen Systems is about us in a culture. It's not us by ourselves. It's how we function within a culture, and we do impact the culture. If you want to change other people in a culture, change yourself, and those people respond to you. It's important to understand what we've inherited. Emotional cutoff. Is there somebody in your family, somebody on your board, somebody in your church, somebody in your business, somebody that's volunteers in your charity that's cut off from everybody else? They are mad and we're never going to know why. There's a dynamic where people cut off. So emotional cutoff is one of those 8 concepts that happens. And it's really important to know that we want to maintain calm, conscious contact, move toward conflict. Everybody in a group emotional situation contributes to every emotional system and conflict. We all contribute to conflict. So the next time you want to blame somebody else for the conflict, stop and think, you're part of it. So we don't want to cut off to them. We want to maintain calm, conscious, open, separate, equal contact with those people. Sibling position. Well, Murry Bowen did not develop this concept. He just elaborated on it some more. He just fine-tuned it. He did more study to validate the research that had already come before and to expand upon that research. Well, I'm the oldest brother of brothers. I make the rules. I take charge. It's a very distinctive position. I need to learn about myself. I can appear to be over-dominant. I need to be aware of that fact that I'm the go in, take charge person. I'm an extrovert. I tend to scare introverts. Those aren't terms that are part of Bowen Systems. I'm out there. I'm very confident. That's because of my sibling position. So understanding where you are in sibling position helps you understand yourself and how we come across to others. Bowen had an eighth concept, societal regression. We see that played out day to day in the news, that society has become a lot more difficult. And we, as leaders of charities, have a more important role today than ever before. Here's some other Bowen concept names. We've talked about guiding principles. Well, anxiety. If we're anxious, it infects the whole culture. Manage our own anxiety because it's contagious, whether we try to hide it or not. People know it. I used to teach middle school. I went in anxious. They could smell it. And they got on me. So it spread quickly. Focused child is somebody in every group that grew up as a focused child in their family. Johnny's the bad boy. Everybody blames Johnny. They dump all the negative energy on Johnny. Johnny learns to attract negative energy. He goes to work. He's on a charity board. He's in the community foundation working. Johnny attracts negative energy. He's the focused child. We don't treat him like others. We don't feed that negative attention. So learning that principle helps us deal with some of these personalities. I talked about basic self, pseudo-self. Stay in the basic self. Learn and use and stay loyal to your guiding principles. Fusion. There are people so closely fused with another human being, they cease to being able to make decisions independently. Some couples get overly fused. So people are fused with their dead parents. They don't want to displease a parent who's no longer here. Fusion takes away the differentiation of self, and there's a scale of being fused and unfused. We want to make sure that we relate to people and we're connected and not fused at a level that we cease to be differentiated as a single human being, as an independent, self-thinking human being. Bowen Systems is about staying in our thinking self and not making emotional decisions. We've been given a brain, we've been given intelligence. We want to be sure that we make decisions using our thinking skills. And here's the last one I'm going to deal with, a nodal, N-O-D-A-L. A nodal event is like a death, losing a spouse, losing a child, a death in the family, losing a parent. It ripples through the whole culture. It exposes different behaviors with people. Being aware that there's that nodal event, losing a job, moving, a nodal event impacts everybody in that culture. So just being aware of it. This is Hugh Ballou. I have programs for you. I'd like you to click on the bottom and give me your opinions on what do you think the biggest challenges are. What do you think the biggest challenges are for you as a leader in the culture? And let's have a conversation. Part of my engagement is to give you what I have learned over the last 30 years in working with charities. 30 years, I have discovered the missing elements. I would like to share those with you. I don't have all the answers. I've got a lot of useful stuff, and I invite you into this conversation. And I'd like to see if there's one of the programs that CenterVision has to offer. We're pledged to offer useful stuff at very reasonable cost. We have lots of resources, and I'd like to share them with you. It starts with you telling me what it is that you think. We'd love to get your opinion. And then let's have a dialogue, in person or virtually, about what I can do to bring value to your world and help you unlock the resources that are under your fingertips. There's abundance in this world. We should attract that abundance for our charity because our work is essential to the communities where we live. It's essential to humankind. It's essential to the welfare of our country and the people that we love. It starts with you equipping yourself. Unbind yourself. Learn about self. Leadership is results. Leadership is a pathway to revenue, income, profits. Those aren't bad words. We wouldn't buy a car and then not put gas in it. The car's got to go. We've built this structure. Let's put the gas in this structure so we can drive it. It's really a Mercedes. And we've got important places to go, important things to do. There are people depending on us equipping ourselves. And then we raise the bar on the culture, and then we define the strategies. In the methodology I have to offer you, there's definitions of multiple streams of revenue that are very accessible. If you have one source of income, you will go broke. That's a fact. Let me share with you. Click on the link. There's 2 links. Download this checklist. It's a one-page checklist. It's not rocket science. It's something to help you open up the avenues where you're blocked. Click on the link. Go, give me your opinion. Let's talk. Let me share the resources with you. Let's make it a better day. We are leaders. We are people of influence. Let's change starting now. It doesn't take forever. We start now. We make a difference starting immediately. Let me know how I can give you value. This is Hugh Ballou, the Transformational Leadership Strategist. I'd love to hear from you.